Being home alone is something most of us enjoy. It's a time for peace, quiet, and comfort. But for some, it's the setting of their worst nightmares. Tonight, you'll hear 3 disturbing true stories from people who were completely alone, or at least they thought they were. Story 1 by Emily R. I had just moved into a small town in Massachusetts for a job I landed right after college. The place was quiet, peaceful, and the apartment I rented was in a duplex owned by a retired couple who lived on the other side. I thought it was perfect. No loud neighbors, low rent, and a back porch that overlooked the woods. It was early spring when I moved in, and by April, the nights were still cold enough that I used a space heater in the bedroom. One Thursday night, I came home late from work. It was dark by the time I pulled into the driveway. I remember this so clearly. I had this odd feeling when I stepped out of the car, like someone was watching me. I dismissed it and went inside. I ate dinner, did some reading, and finally went to bed around 11. I turned off all the lights except my bedside lamp, crawled into bed, and checked my phone one last time before putting it down. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard it. A soft tapping. It sounded like it was coming from the wall behind my bed. I sat up. It stopped. Now, the wall behind my bed faced the backyard and woods. No windows, just drywall. I assumed it was an animal outside, maybe a raccoon or something. But when I laid back down, the tapping started again. This time, it was louder, and it had rhythm, like someone was tapping deliberately. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps again. I got out of bed, heart pounding, and moved to the living room. I called my landlord, who lived on the other side of the duplex. He didn't answer. I decided to wait it out, thinking it was probably nothing. Around 1:30 a.m., I was still awake, scrolling my phone on the couch, when I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. My bedroom light was on. I had turned it off. I was sure of it. I grabbed the fireplace poker from beside the mantel and slowly walked toward my room. I pushed the door open with the tip of the poker. No one, nothing, but the light was definitely on. And here's the part that really scared me. The closet door was cracked open. I always kept it shut. At this point, I was terrified. I ran back into the living room and called the police. They arrived in about 15 minutes and did a sweep of the house. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no one inside. They were polite, but clearly thought I was overreacting. The next morning, I found something that still chills me to this day. Behind the house, on the wooden panel beneath my bedroom wall, were faint scratch marks. Not animal scratches. These were deep, straight gouges, like someone had been trying to saw or pry into the house from underneath. I asked the landlord if there had ever been a break-in. He paused and told me, "Not here," but the last tenant left suddenly, said she didn't feel safe anymore. I moved out 2 weeks later. If you're enjoying these creepy stories so far, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. If you have a terrifying experience of your own, send it to the email in the description below. Story 2 by Jason M. Back in 2018, I worked from home in a small one-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of a quiet building. I was single at the time, and since my work hours were flexible, I often stayed up late and slept in. This story took place in early December, a week before Christmas. One night around midnight, I was watching a movie on my laptop in bed. The room was lit only by the glow of the screen and a dim lamp across the room. I suddenly heard a noise outside, like the soft creak of metal. It wasn't loud, but it was distinct, almost like the sound of a screen door slowly swinging open. I paused the movie and listened. Silence. Then another sound. This time it was a soft, dragging scrape, like someone dragging something heavy across pavement. I got up and moved to the window. My apartment overlooked a back alley that was normally empty. But now, there was a man standing in the alley. He was facing my building. He was holding something long in his hand, maybe a crowbar or a tire iron, and he was slowly pacing back and forth. I instinctively backed away from the window and turned off my lamp. I waited. The man didn't move toward the building, but he stayed there for a good 5 minutes, just pacing and occasionally looking up. I didn't sleep that night. The next night, around the same time, I heard the exact same metal creak. I rushed to the window, and once again, the man was there. But this time, he looked up and smiled. That was enough for me. I called the police and reported a suspicious person. They said they'd send someone to patrol the area, but the man left before they arrived. The third night is when it got worse. I was in the shower when I heard a loud bang, like something hitting the front door. I ran out, soaking wet, and peeked through the peephole. No one. But there was a package on the doormat. No label. Just a small brown box. I called the police again. This time, they came quickly. They opened the box with gloves and found an old, broken flip phone. The battery had been removed, and the screen had a long crack through it. Taped to the back was a note that said, "You look better in blue light." The officer looked disturbed but couldn't do much. There was no camera in the alley and no witnesses. I moved out a few weeks later and never found out who he was or what he wanted. Story 3 by Linda T. I was 19 when this happened. My parents had gone out of town for the weekend, and I had the house to myself. It was a 2-story home with a big backyard and a patio. The kind of place that feels cozy during the day but turns creepy at night. That Friday night, I was doing homework in the kitchen when I noticed the back patio light flicker on. It's motion activated, so I assumed it was an animal. I looked out the window and didn't see anything. An hour later, I was upstairs getting ready for bed when I heard something downstairs, like glass clinking softly. I froze and listened again. Another soft clink. I tiptoed down and saw that one of the glasses I had left on the counter had fallen to the floor and cracked. But here's the weird thing. It was standing upright. Not shattered, just a long hairline crack down the middle. Like someone had picked it up, examined it, and set it back down. Carefully. At this point, I was creeped out but not terrified. I cleaned up the glass and went back upstairs. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the doorbell ringing. It rang twice, long, slow presses. I didn't go down. I stayed in bed, paralyzed. Then my phone buzzed. I checked it. One new message from unknown number. "Why aren't you answering the door, Linda? I felt my blood run cold. I hadn't told anyone I was home alone." I didn't reply. I called the police immediately. They arrived 10 minutes later. No one at the door. No signs of forced entry. But the next morning, I found something terrifying. On the patio table outside, someone had arranged my parents' garden gnomes to face the kitchen window. All 5 of them, lined up perfectly, staring straight inside. Whoever had been outside knew I was alone, knew my name, knew my number. I changed it that same day. Being alone can be a comfort until it isn't. Sometimes the things that go bump in the night aren't just in your head. Sometimes someone or something is bumping back.